Hi, I'm Tony Houston. I'm the local history librarian here at Blodgett Library, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Your Story is Fishkill Story. Today we're interviewing James Miccio, who's the mayor of the Village of Fishkill.
Hi, how are you?
So Jim, the last couple people we interviewed, Ray Van Voris and Glenn Sneed, were longtime Fishkill residents. But you're really a local resident because you've never lived more than a mile from the Village of Fishkill. Is that true?
That's exactly right. Yep, I grew up. I started in the village, moved just over the line and up on 9 behind what was the drive-in. We used to be able to see the drive-in from our backyard. And 41 years ago, I moved back to the village. So, except for I guess around 14 years of life, I've been in the village and always in the town.
So your grandparents originally bought property here? Is that how you came to be in Fishkill?
Yeah, some kind of a little. I was not born at that time, but from what I know, it was a little soda fountain type candy store. I know she sold cigarettes because my father used to say that him and my uncle would steal cigarettes and she'd yell at them because, once I guess there were 25 cents a pack, but she had to pay for them and.
And then your uncle owned King Cone?
Yep. It was a great place to go, get ice cream, and after baseball games, everybody went to King Cone to get their sundae. I guess it was a single building, and then later on he added, so they had the ice cream on one side and the food on the other. If anybody remembers, the food side sat back a little from the ice cream side. And as you mentioned, Ray Van Voris was one of the employees. A lot of Fishkill kids worked on the ice cream side of King Cone, and it was always family. I was one of the few that didn't work at King Cone. My father had, him and his partner had an excavating company, which was behind King Cone, K&A Excavating. So I ended up working there.
So what was your experience growing up in Fishkill? Did you attend Fishkill Elementary School?
No, I actually started out at St. Mary's Church on Jackson Street for 3 years. And then I transferred over to Fishkill Elementary and then went to Wappingers Junior High and John Jay. And like everybody in Fishkill, I had Mr. Powers. If you went to Fishkill Elementary, you knew him. My daughter had him, so that was kind of neat. And we did rockets. I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Powers with the rockets. Did those, went back, did them with my daughter. And then a couple of years ago, they had, I think, the 50th or 40th anniversary of him doing rockets. Went back and they honored him. I was able to speak at that event as not only the mayor, but as a former student and a Rocketeer.
So I hear you were a wrestler at John Jay.
I was. Yes, I was.
So what made you want to be involved in government?
I never really wanted to get into government work at all. As I said, my father had the excavating company, and we always worked around the village. He repaired water main breaks over the years, and I tag along with him, and the older I get, I'd start working. And I worked every summer, and whenever we did any paving, if we had leftover blacktop, we'd come to the village and patch potholes. We still don't have a real highway department. My father always just did it because he was part of the community, and he was friendly. I remember as a kid growing up, going to the Fishkill Bake Shop with him on Saturday mornings when he'd sit down and meet Sarah Taylor at the time was the mayor, and Dick Loria was one of the trustees. Even George Carter was a trustee back then. Joe McCluskey decided to do a contract to run the water and sewer because they had a family that did them both basically on an hourly basis. So he decided to do the contract. We got the contract my father did to run the water system. So from about 1977 to 1986, I was the operator, did fix the water breaks. And about 1987, Joe asked if I wanted to go on the planning board. George Carter was the chairman of the planning board, and then he ran for mayor in '89, and there was an opening in the 1990 election. So he suggested I run for the board, and I did. And I was deputy mayor for him, and Dennis White beat him. And just before Dennis left office, I was appointed the first superintendent of public works for the village. And then George beat Dennis again, so I worked there. George came in and he kept me on. And so I did that for 3 years, and then I got offered a job with New York City Department of Environmental Protection. I didn't always agree with George and the way things were going, and he was just taking the village in a direction I didn't think. Actually, he wasn't taking in any direction, which was really the problem. And I decided to run for mayor, and I was hoping to get 2 years and try to straighten the ship and get it going in a good direction. And here we are 22 years later, and I'm finally getting done. And it was 20 years longer than I ever expected to do it, but it's been a great ride. I couldn't have asked for a better thing to do in life.
So when you hear the word Fishkill, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Community. We started the block party, I think my first year as mayor, and it's been pretty successful. People love to come, and there's nothing better than a community getting together, and I think that's what Fishkill's about, is people still feel part of something. People I talk to all the time tell me they love the Village of Fishkill. They love the small town, the small community. So
that's the one thing I miss when I moved from Fishkill to East Fishkill, is East Fishkill doesn't have a center. It has a shopping center, but it doesn't have a center like Fishkill does.
The state government has made it easier to dissolve a village, and we're working to try to make it easier for them to stay as villages. So I'm going to keep that. I'll do for the rest of my life as long as I'm here. The villages we're the closest government to the people. Towns are too, but I see almost everybody. I live right on Broad Street, and it's rare that I don't see somebody go by on a day that doesn't say hi or wave or beep the horn.
So doing all these things, I imagine you spend a lot of nights at meetings.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little better. During that time, I was on the Soil and Water, Dutchess County Soil and Water Conservation District Board, ended up being the president of that board, and on the library board, and ended up becoming president of this board. So right now I'm down to just the library in a village, so it's 3 meetings a month, 2 Mondays and 1 Wednesday. And at the end of June, it'll be just once a month on Wednesdays. I love the library, I love the board, I love all the things that they've been doing here. So it's great staff and good people to work with. So this I want to keep as long as I can.
So between 9/11, the East Coast blackout of 2003, and COVID-19, what do you think has been your biggest challenge as mayor?
Yeah, they've been challenging. COVID's been, it's the most recent, so it's obviously the one it's most on your mind. 9/11, I think we dealt with it the way the rest of the country. Sure, security issues became more prevalent. You mentioned the blackout in 2003. It was. That one actually took a lot more work because it happened, late in the afternoon or later in the afternoon, and all the traffic lights were down. And obviously we have Route 9 and Route 52, which not when my grandmother bought it, but today is a very, very busy intersection. So without traffic lights, we had to have police there trying to coordinate with the state and our officers. We didn't have the staff to kind of do everything. We needed to have more people out on the streets because everything's black, and obviously that's the time that nefarious acts happen. We actually lost a police car in that. The car idled so long that it blew the motor, so we had to replace a police vehicle after that. So that was a challenge. I was out fairly late that night.
And of course, locally, there was the flooding on Elm Street.
Yeah. Fortunately, there was a history, so I didn't have to take all of the blame, though I did get a lot of blame for not fixing it. But it has flooded in 86, 83 and 86, and again, it got even worse in the 2 subsequent floods. And flood insurance doesn't really cover a lot. Basically, it'll cover the damage. If it's 2 feet up, they'll pay for 2 feet of sheetrock normally, and that doesn't usually cover. But and all your outlets are on the floor level, so they all get wet, so they all have to be replaced. And it was a mess for the businesses. We did as much as we could to help them, but there's only so much we can do as a municipality.
Another of Fishkill's 15 minutes of fame was the filming of Nobody's Fool, part of which was filmed right here on Broad Street. Were you around to see any of that filming?
No, I actually didn't see the filming. I was working during that time, during the day, so by the time I got home, it was, but I do remember coming home one day, and our front yard, because we're right down the street, was covered with snow, and it was not a snowy day. It was a fairly decent late November day, but they had put snow all over. As I mentioned earlier, we had the construction company, and the production company came in early, and we had old pieces of pipe and pallets and stuff that just left over, and they bought a lot of it, and they had a place in Beacon that they used, but they needed to fill it up with looked like leftover construction debris. So they bought that, and we met a lot of the production people. And they had their trailers down at on Elm Street at Montfort's garage. And Paul Newman was down there. I guess my dog used to wander down there and kind of look for treats. So when they found out whose dog it was, I asked them for Paul Newman's autograph. So my sister was a big fan. So he signed a box of his popcorn.
And when he was driving down the sidewalk, you could even see the Blodgett Library sign in the background because they didn't change it.
Right, yeah. One of the things that always struck me funny was the scene with Jessica Tandy when she wanders away and she walks out of her house, which was filmed in the city of Poughkeepsie, and she walks into the diner, which is in the city of Beacon, and it makes it look like she went down a half a block, and really it was, a long walk if she was really going to do it.
So Jim, you've been mayor for 22 years. When's the last day you're going to be mayor?
The 4th of July, actually. Just the way it works, the new mayor is sworn in on the first Monday of the month after the election, which the election is on June 15th, so the first Monday in the following month is July 5th. So I get to do one more declaration. Since I've been mayor, I've always been in the front of it. So it'll be nice to sit down and relax for a little while. I was always taught to leave a place better than you found it, and I think I can say I'm proud that I've done that with the village. The firehouse, another beautiful project. I've been mayor for all of the equipment that's been purchased that's in the firehouse, plus the expansion. That's, we try to treat them well because they do a lot of work for not only no pay, they don't get very little thanks for the work they do. I said once that, when you hear the fire whistle, because now it's working again, and it's right in basically my front yard, the second whistle you hear is usually the fire truck going out. That means somebody got up and, in the middle of the night and went out to do that job. Most of us just get annoyed because the whistle woke us up and turn over and go back to sleep. So we tried over the years to do what we could to make sure that they had the tools and equipment they needed. And that's kind of all you can do to thank them is give them the best of the tools.
Well, thank you for coming, Jim. This has been really interesting.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And tune in next time for another episode of Your Story is Fishkill's Story.